After I finished speaking, the system fell silent for a long time. After a long while, it finally spoke as if doubting its existence with a trembling voice. Host, do you mean that instead of choosing them as lovers, you want to choose them as your parents? I nodded vigorously. Ant system is making it sound so complicated and difficult. But I know that the meaning of the strategy is to love others. I don't know how to love two strangers. I only know how to love my parents. Children are born knowing how to love their parents, right? Apparently, I had refreshed the system's perception. It still couldn't accept it and tried to persuade me earnestly. Host, think it over again. If they are your lovers, I have a lot of materials to refer to. Many previous hosts have left their experiences. There are all kinds of strategy modes like childhood sweethearts, business alliances, chasing the wife with a child on the run, and reconciliation after a broken relationship. It's still early. In another year, the cold and aloof top student will miss the college entrance examination and turn into a big bad guy with a dark mind and a twisted and sinister personality. The unruly school bully will be expelled from school and thrown into jail because of frequent fighting. After being released from prison, he will become a Mad Ann. By that time, you'll have grown into a great beauty. I've already prepared a script for you. When they are at their most painful, all you need to do is show up and give them a little bit of care. They'll regard you as their savior. The two of them will fight each other to the death for you and turn against each other completely. Ant System's voice sounded very cold and even a bit excited. It's just a system. It doesn't care about their fates. I felt a twinge in my heart and started to feel stuffy and uncomfortable. But I do care. No one knows. Before I was bound by Ant System, I died of a serious illness. Before I died, my parents carried me and kowtowed along the street to beg for my surgery fees. Everyone was afraid of us trying to extort money, looking at us with disgust from afar and standing by indifferently. Only the top student and the school bully, one with a serious little face, ran home and brought all his saved pocket money. The other one fiercely beat up the person who wanted to rob our money. They are good people. I don't want them to become bad guys and lunatics. I said to Ant System seriously with a straight face, I want them to be my parents. Ant System, please help me, okay? At this moment, I'm standing in front of the shabby boxing gym, clinging tightly to Jackson's strong calf like an octopus with a childish and loud voice. Dad, I finally found you. Jackson looked down at me, his eyes wide open like copper bells. He instinctively wanted to push me away but didn't quite dare. Now, I have a round and plump ball-shaped hairstyle, big shiny eyes, chubby cheeks like a steamed bun, and my arms and legs are like lotus roots. I'm incredibly cute. I touched my chubby little feet and was very satisfied. In my previous life, I could only feel bones and a layer of skin on my feet. There were many pinholes on them and blood often leaked out from the holes. Facing the shocked and perverted looks of several lackeys, Jackson took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, saying, "Can't you see this kid is crazy? I've just become an adult. How can I be her dad?" The looks of several lackeys became even more perverted. A lackey hesitated and said, "Jackson, what should we do now? This little girl seems to be lost." Someone laughed and said, "She's so cute. Can I have her?" Jackson slapped the person on the head and sternly scolded, "Who allowed you to just claim things casually? If she's lost, take her to the police station. Do you have any common sense?" Jackson doesn't like kids. He bent down to pry me off his leg and picked me up with one hand, looking extremely disgusted. I curved my eyes, waved my hands excitedly, and shouted, "Dad." Jackson dug his ears, put his right hand in his pocket with a slouchy posture and a sarcastic voice, saying, "Stop shouting. I'm not your dad even if you keep yelling." But he soon found that I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the back of him with twinkling eyes, so excited that I wanted to jump up. That was my other dad, Andrew. Ant System said I couldn't call a man Mom, so I could only call him Dad. Jackson turned around in confusion and found a teenager in a blue and white school uniform looking at me intently and puzzledly. The teenager had a clean and strong neck. The bangs in front of his forehead slightly covered his eyes and eyebrows. His slender fingers were holding the straps of his school bag. Jackson's expression turned cold. Andrew had cold eyes, slightly frowned eyebrows, and a hoarse voice. "Jackson, are you abducting a child? That's illegal." Obviously, the two of them didn't get along well. Jackson clicked his tongue irritably and retorted, "You're the one who does such things. I'm just about to send her to the police station." Andrew clearly didn't believe it and followed us at a distance. It wasn't until we reached the entrance of the police station that Andrew stopped and was about to leave. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes when he looked at Jackson. "Sorry, I misunderstood you." Andrew apologized seriously. Jackson gave a cold laugh and directly carried me into the police station. Andrew turned around and left. I quickly called him to stop. My eyes were wide open and I grinned, saying, "Dad, come in with us." Andrew looked down at me for a while and there was a hint of affection in his eyes. He hesitated for a moment. The steps that were about to turn around came back and he entered the police station with us. As soon as Jackson entered the door, he was about to slip away after handing me over to the police officer. I popped out like a firecracker, hugged Jackson tightly, and then tried hard to hook Andrew's sleeve with my little finger, panicked. "Mom and Dad, where are you going?" I was very afraid that Mom and Dad would leave my sight. Kids can't be separated from their parents. The police officers in the police station glanced at each other, and their inquisitive gazes fell on Andrew and Jackson. They had handled quite a few cases. Although it was rare for fathers to be as young as these two teenagers, it wasn't unheard of. The police station chief made a prompt decision, pointed at Andrew and Jackson and said, "You two cooperate in getting a paternity test." Jackson looked like he wanted to die and explained, "I'm really not her dad." Then he looked at Andrew and questioned, "Hey, this isn't some kind of prank of yours, is it?" Andrew glanced down, stretched out his hand to get his blood drawn, and said indifferently, "A person with a clear conscience fears no false accusations." "If you're not the father, what are you afraid of?" Jackson was convinced by him and haughtily stretched out his hand. I tried hard to raise my head and stared seriously at the two of them, recalling what Aunt's system had said. "Host, to ensure the success of the mission, Auntie will change the settings of this world for you. Even in the paternity test, Andrew and Jackson will be your biological parents." The result of the paternity test would come out a day later. Jackson and Andrew still had to go to school, so they indeed left me at the police station and went to school. I stared in the direction of the school, remembered the sad face of Dad Jackson when he went to school, propped my chin with my chubby hand, and sighed wistfully. I had never been to school, but I knew that school was a scary place. Before, in the hospital, there were even kids who pretended to be sick and got injections to avoid going to school. I felt in my pocket. There was a piece of candy that the policewoman had secretly given me. I had wanted to eat it for a long time, but I resisted the urge. I waved to call out Aunt's system and asked her to send me to school to find Dad Jackson. When I sneaked into the class, Dad Jackson was lying on the table in the last row, sleeping. There were red marks on his face from being pressed, and his mouth was slightly open. I was even shorter than the table when standing. With a proud and energetic gait, I walked up to Jackson, happily peeled the colorful candy wrapper, and carefully stuffed the candy into Jackson's mouth. I thought contentedly that Dad would definitely praise me. Jackson jumped up from the chair all of a sudden. His face flushed red. He looked at me excitedly and asked me what I had fed him. I spread out the empty candy wrapper. The candy had melted a bit and there was still sticky candy residue on the wrapper. I carefully licked it and it was extremely sweet. I happily told Jackson, "Dad, it's a candy. The policewoman gave it to me. I brought it for you to eat. Isn't it very sweet?" I was so reluctant to eat it myself. Previously in the hospital, the doctors didn't allow me to eat candies. My body's immunity is very low. Eating candies from outside would make me sick. Jackson's hand that was about to stick into his throat stopped. His expression was complicated. Finally, he gritted his teeth, gulped down some water, swallowed the candy, and nodded with a smile, forcing himself to say, "It's sweet." I squinted with a big smile, held his hand, and seriously discussed with him, "Dad, I'll bring you candies in the future, but you can't fight anymore, okay? Those who fight are bad kids and won't get any candies." With my hands behind my back, imitating the tone of the old-fashioned security guard uncle, I seriously scared him. Aunt's system said that Dad Jackson would go to jail because of fighting in the future. Life in jail is miserable. You can't have enough to eat, can't be warmly dressed, and have to do hard work. No wonder Dad went crazy after getting out. I sighed melancholy, hoping that Dad would be as obedient as me. Jackson vigorously ruffled my hair, turning my ponytail into a frizzy mess, and gritted his teeth, saying, "Kid, you're not my daughter. Mind your own business." Jackson looked like an angry bird. He raised his fist and pretended to frown. "Don't think I won't hit kids." I let out a cry, seeing that Jackson was about to beat me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw another dad, Andrew, sitting upright and seriously lowering his head to do his homework. I took a big step and rushed in front of Andrew. I got under his desk and hugged his leg tightly, squeezing out and about to cry, "Look. Dad Jackson is going to beat me. Please stop him quickly." I remembered that Dad Jackson was subdued by Dad Andrew last time when he didn't want to have his blood drawn. Andrew's long and slender fingers holding the pen suddenly stopped, leaving a black line on the scratch paper. The whole class fell silent in an instant and was stunned all at once. Someone asked a soul-stirring question. Monitor, do you and the school bully goo even have a child? No, you too, have you turned from rivals in love to lovers? No, it's more like rivals in love turning into a parental love story. I looked up, my bright eyes meeting Andrew's in different ones, and I showed an ingratiating smile. Andrew rubbed the space between his eyebrows and explained helplessly, it's not what you think. She is a lost child. The classmates in the class let out a meaningful, oh. Andrew picked me up from under the table with a solemn expression and said, don't shout randomly. Andrew was unhappy. I quickly covered my mouth, rolled my eyes, and nodded repeatedly. Uncle Doctor said that I should be a child who knows how to adapt to the situation. Jackson walked over at some unknown time, then viciously tugged at my hair and sneered, you're quite obedient to him. Why didn't you listen to me when I told you not to scream? I stuck out my tongue quietly. I've already figured out that Dad Jackson is all bark and no bite, while Dad Andrew has a soft bark but a strong bite. Andrew brushed aside Jackson's hand, gently frowned, and his tone was full of disapproval. She's so young. Why are you arguing with her? Jackson's eyes turned red with anger. Andrew, you're protecting her so much. I think you're her real dad. Jackson kicked the chair away angrily and left. Andrew stared at his back. After a long while, he shook his head with a smile and murmured to himself. What a bad temper. Of course, Andrew doesn't think I'm his real daughter. After school, he took me to have hot pot and bought me a lot of snacks. He even stuffed a few $100 bills into my small cross body bag. Then he sent me back to the police station. Before leaving, Andrew squatted in front of me. His voice was cold yet gentle. Lemon, don't be afraid. When the paternity test results come out tomorrow, the police uncle will go to find your biological parents and ask them to come and pick you up. You're so cute. Your parents will love you very much. Andrew smoothed my hair inch by inch, and there was an inexplicable sense of reluctance in his voice. I was eating jelly beans, chewing away and nodding perfunctorily. When Andrew left, looking back every few steps, I even waved happily at him. Anyway, I heard that he's coming to pick me up tomorrow. The next day, the paternity test results came out. I'm the child of Andrew and Jackson. The police officer glanced at the paternity test and immediately called Andrew and Jackson in front of me with a serious voice. There's something that needs your confirmation. The two men both came to the police station. Jackson leaned casually against the counter, glanced at Andrew and said playfully in a teasing voice, well, even the most disciplined class monitor has broken the law. Andrew pursed his lips, gave Jackson a nonchalant look and ignored him. Being led by the policewoman, I skipped merrily up to the two men. I held each of their little fingers with my left and right hands respectively, tilted my head up, and there were two dimples on my smiling face. Mom and Dad, are you here to take me home? Jackson let out a snort and said lazily, kid, don't call us randomly. I'll only marry a woman in the future. In this era, same-sex marriage has long been legal and even children can be conceived. Just as he finished speaking, the police chief walked out and handed the two paternity test reports to the two men respectively. After identification, the probability that Jackson has a parent-child relationship with Lemon is 99%. After identification, the probability that Andrew has a parent-child relationship with Lemon is 99%. Jackson's pupils constricted and the hand holding the report suddenly tightened. His face was full of disbelief. Andrew's face remained relatively calm, with only a slight tightening of his lips. However, his look at me became a bit more complicated. The police chief stared at the two men disapprovingly and said earnestly, this child is yours. As parents, you can't be irresponsible. Take the child home and raise him well. You shouldn't involve the child in your conflicts as adults. Andrew quickly calmed down and nodded, okay. Andrew bent down to pick me up and then pulled Jackson, who still looked confused, away. After walking a few steps, my stomach growled. I rubbed my stomach and said seriously, Dad, my stomach is ringing. Andrew gave a soft laugh, turned his head to look at me and asked, what does Lemon want to eat? I pointed at an old-fashioned sign by the road and said, let's go into its belly. I want to eat fried chicken. Andrew glanced at McDonald's, walked in, and ordered an adult set meal and a children's set meal. Jackson finally came to his senses. Angrily and puzzledly, he questioned Andrew, why did you drag me out? Jackson's voice was very loud and fierce. I shrank my body to reduce my presence and carefully squeezed my legs together. I didn't even dare to eat the fragrant chicken nuggets. I stared at the two of them with wide, open eyes. Andrew frowned, his voice cold and displeased. Jackson, you've scared Lemon. Jackson was taken aback. Jackson stiffly raised his hand and soothingly stroked my hair. I grinned. First, I fed a chicken drumstick to Jackson and Andrew respectively, and then I hugged the boneless crispy chicken and took a bite. As I munched away, I tilted my head and listened to the two dads whispering and plotting. Andrew lowered his voice. The paternity test is a fact. This whole thing is very strange. If it gets out of hand, they'll start investigating our identities and find out that we're students. If the school finds out about the unmarried pregnancy, we're very likely to be expelled. Jackson's eyes wandered. Although he was the school bully, he didn't want to be expelled either. He muttered, "So what should we do now?" A hint of a smile flashed across Andrew's eyes. "Let's raise her first. Lemon is very cute." Jackson rolled his eyes. "If you really like her, I'll take care of her on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You take care of her on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I'll take her on Sundays." Andrew took a tissue and wiped the oil off my mouth. Looking down, he said, "Okay, just don't regret it later." I went to the university with my dads. I wrapped my arms around Andrew's neck, stretched my neck, and looked around. Not seeing any kids of my age, I pouted and whispered fearfully, "Dad, will this scary place eat kids?" Andrew was stunned for a moment, then understood what I meant and patiently explained to me, "Lemon, this is a place where dads study. After studying, they have to take something called the college entrance examination, then go to university, and only then can they earn money in the future. Only by earning money can they survive in this world. So dads are locked up to study every day just to be able to survive. Just like in my previous life when I was pricked with needles in the hospital every day, it must be very painful." I grabbed Andrew's lean wrist, puffed out my cheeks and blew on it hard, then twisted around and blew on Jackson's wrist, repeating this back and forth. The two of them were confused and both asked what I was doing. I rubbed my sore cheeks and slurred, "I'm helping you, shush. Then it won't hurt when you get your hands pricked for studying. From today on, Lemon will blow on your hands every day. No matter how hard it is, Lemon will accompany dads." I raised my little fist and swore. Jackson and Shinchingen were stunned for a long time, and an emotion called touch was fermenting in their eyes. When we reached the classroom door, the classroom during evening self-study was as silent as a grave. I poked my head through the crack in the door, opened my big, dark, shiny eyes, and happily waved my chubby little hand to say hello. "Hello, brothers and sisters. I'm a Lemon. I'm here to see you again." This sentence was like hot oil poured into a pan. The dull classroom immediately exploded. The literature and art committee member, Sophia, excitedly jumped out of her seat, squatted down and hugged me tightly, almost crying with joy. "Baby Lemon, why are you back again? Sister thought she'd never see such a cute baby like you again." I took out a lollipop from my pocket and stuffed it into my mouth. After thinking for a while, I gave one to Sophia and comfortingly stroked her upturned bangs. "Sister Sophia, my dads are here. I've come back to accompany my dads." The classroom fell into dead silence again. Then everyone looked at Jackson and Andrew one after another. Jackson embarrassedly covered his face with a book and buried his head in the desk like a quail, gruffly saying, "Ask the class monitor." The sister, who is the study committee member, adjusted her glasses and looked at Andrew with a cautious tone. "Class monitor, are you really?" "Don't worry, our class is united and tight-lipped." The brother, who is the life committee member, checked the class funds, casually took out a 100-yuan bill and gave it to me, saying with a big smile, "Baby Lemon, this is a welcome gift from the whole class. Take it quickly." He then asked, "Class monitor, do you think our class still needs to prepare a wedding red envelope?" I took the red bill and happily stuffed it into my small purse. From today on, Lemon is also a kid with a lot of money. Andrew rubbed his forehead and stopped the publicity committee member who wanted to spread the news in various groups with his phone, saying, "Don't spread it blindly. Jackson and I are just classmates. As for Lemon, her situation is special." The publicity committee member took out his phone and pointed it at me, muttering, "Class monitor, I just want to take a photo of our class's beloved baby Lemon." Suddenly, he burst out laughing. I was using Sister Sophia's cosmetics to make myself look beautiful. I was patting lipstick on my cheeks, making them look like a big red blob, like a clown in a circus. Hearing what the brother, who is the publicity committee member, said, I immediately obediently raised my hand and showed 8 teeth, making a V sign. So cute and funny. The brothers and sisters in the class laughed uncontrollably. Jackson didn't know when he raised his head. He was holding his belly and shaking with laughter. Andrew also curled his lips. A few sisters were afraid of irritating my skin. While laughing, they took wet tissues to wipe it off for me. I squinted my eyes comfortably. At this time, someone knocked on the classroom door. A frail-looking sister said in a shrill voice, "Excuse me, is Andrew here? I'm here to thank him for accompanying me home that night." All the brothers and sisters in the class fell silent. I looked over curiously and found that Jackson's dad's face suddenly turned cold and he kicked the table leg hard. I whispered to Sophia, "Sister Sophia, why is Jackson's dad angry?" Sophia got close to my ear and said, "Baby Lemon, your Jackson's dad used to date this Nora. He worked part-time to buy her a necklace, but then Nora framed your Jackson's dad as a thief and a robber. Now Nora likes your dad Andrew. She tells everyone every day that your dad Andrew likes her and that's why he's willing to send her home. Your dad Andrew can't get rid of her because she has a heart condition and can't take the stress." I puffed up my cheeks in anger and clenched my little fists tightly. How outrageous. Andrew walked to the door. There was a hint of annoyance between his eyebrows, but he couldn't say anything too harsh. Just as he was about to speak, I rushed in front of Andrew like a lit firecracker, staring fixedly at Nora with wide, open eyes. Lemon will never allow anyone to destroy Mom and Dad's marriage. The battle to defend the family starts with Lemon. Nora was all lovesick, only wanting to talk to Andrew. She asked me perfunctorily who I was. I put my hands on my hips and mumbled, "Andrew is my dad. Jackson is my other dad." Nora's pupils dilated suddenly. Her face turned pale, and she looked at Andrew Hart brokenly, hoping for a refutation. But Andrew ignored her. Instead, he held my short legs and took a step back, saying, "Lemon, it's windy at the door. You can't stand here. You'll catch a cold." Nora glared at me fiercely. Suddenly, she covered her heart, bent down in pain, and cried out, "Brother Qingyan, this child made me have an attack. Will you carry me to the infirmary? Otherwise, I'll make this kid pay with her life." I was startled and quickly hugged Dad Andrew's neck in fear. Lemon has died once and is very afraid of dying again. Jackson rushed up from the back seat. He spoke aggressively and was in a bad temper. "What does it have to do with Lemon, Nora? Stop pretending." Jackson said seriously to Andrew, "Trust me, she's definitely pretending. Don't bother with her." Nora knelt on the ground halfway, her eyes misty with tears. Andrew was also very nervous, hesitating whether to carry Nora to the school infirmary. Previously, he just gave her a ride home on the way, and he has been entangled until now. If he carried her, Andrew's face would be extremely ugly. But if he didn't, what if Nora was really having an attack? Andrew was hesitating. Jackson's expression turned cold. Understanding that Andrew didn't believe him, he sneered dejectedly and said, "Fine. You carry her there." Andrew's hand moved, and a flash of pride immediately crossed Nora's eyes. I tapped on the system ant and whispered, "System ant, can you tell me how to prove that what my dad Jackson said is right?" I tapped on my dad Jackson. The system ant cleared her throat and educated me. "Nora doesn't have a heart disease. People with heart disease won't be so thin. Instead, they will have swollen limbs and look a bit fat." I immediately imitated the system ant's tone and repeated it. Everyone was stunned. Nora's eyes immediately changed, uncontrollably showing panic. She had been faking illness for more than a decade, gaining countless sympathies and having a smooth life. No one dared to make her angry. She was suddenly exposed. Andrew's expression immediately turned gloomy. His proud politeness and self-cultivation completely collapsed at this moment. He coldly told Nora to get out. "The whole school will know about your faking illness. You won't have an easy life from now on." Nora burst into tears, covered her face and staggered to her feet and left. I hugged Andrew's neck and whispered, "Dad, can you not talk to this liar sister in the future? Dad Jackson will be angry, and I won't be able to eat enough." I stretched out my chubby hand and said sadly, "I'll also be whipped here. In my previous life, there was a little friend in the hospital whose dad always talked to a liar aunt. His mom was angry every day. Once she got angry, she would whip the little friend's arm." Andrew pulled down my sleeves and said in a somewhat low voice, "Okay, I won't talk to her anymore from now on." Dad Jackson coldly went back to the table and lay there sleeping. I crawled under the table and saw him with bulging and red eyes, extremely angry. I reached out and pinched Dad Jackson's face and said, "Dad, you're super duper smart. That sister is a liar. I believe in Dad." I went to ask the fairy ant, and the fairy ant told me. Dad Jackson's eyes sparkled. He pinched my round face in return, then dragged me out from under the table, lifted me up high, and tickled my armpits. I let out giggles. Shin Qingyan sat across from Jackson, and Jackson's smile instantly disappeared. Andrew looked a bit at a loss and said, "Jackson, sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you." He rarely took such a humble stance. Jackson gave a cold laugh and remained unmoved. Andrew pursed his lips and then firmly said, "From now on, I'll believe every word you say. Don't be angry, okay?" Jackson fell silent, awkwardly turned his head away, and muttered, "All right, I'm not that petty." Andrew let out a sigh of relief. Before leaving the seat with me in his arms, he suddenly said inexplicably, "Actually, I've never liked Nora." Jackson was stunned. After being taken to the class by Mom and Dad, I was extremely happy every day. The desks in Mom and Dad's classroom were taller than me. There were many big boxes under them, and thick books were stacked one on top of another. Dad Jackson built a small house for me with books. There were many fragrant clothes of the sisters padded under the box, and the top was blocked with books so that the teacher couldn't see. Dad Andrew once said that this was a hide-and-seek game. I'm going to lie in the little house and can't let the teacher find me, or I'll be eaten by the teacher. All the kids in school have been eaten by the teacher, so there are only adults left. I squatted in the little house with my short legs crossed, watching cartoons. Suddenly, my eyes lit up. In the cartoon, Peppa said she was going to prepare a birthday gift for George and invite many people to bless him, making George the happiest person in the world. Aunt's system said that Dad Jackson's strategy progress is only half, and he doesn't love me very much yet. I'm a little sad, but I comfort myself that it doesn't matter. Dad Jackson only wants to play with me 1 day a week. It's normal that the strategy progress is slow. I'm going to work hard to be a kid that both Mom and Dad like. I'm going to learn from Peppa and invite all the elder brothers and sisters in the class to Dad Jackson's birthday party. I threw away the cartoon book and poked my head out to peek at the teacher who eats kids. The teacher wasn't looking at me, so I quietly crawled out of the box. There is a stack of heavy invitations in my little satchel. They are all birthday party invitations that Aunt's system taught me to write. Aunt said that Dad Jackson will be very satisfied with this birthday gift. Being accepted and blessed by the whole class on his birthday is his wish. I'm going to be the little messenger and deliver invitations to all the elder brothers and sisters in the class. I first crawled to the feet of Sister Sophia, the literary committee member, and puffed out an invitation and a piece of bubble gum from my pocket. Sophia took it in surprise. When she looked at me again, her eyes were full of envy. She lowered her voice and whined, "How can Jackson have such a cute baby? Will you be my daughter, sister? I'd even be willing to get into Tsinghua University." The kid ignored her plea and went straight to the next one, the sports committee member, brother. Brother, the sports committee member, is sleeping. I straightened my face. Learning is for making money to survive. How can you sleep? After putting the invitation on the desk, I carefully poked brother, the sports committee member, and then turned around and slipped away. However, it seems I didn't wake him up. I sighed dejectedly. The class commissary in charge of general affairs saw me early in the morning. He rubbed his hands eagerly, waiting for me to go over, and pointed to an eraser not far away. I picked it up impatiently and returned it to him. Along the way, I've picked up more than a dozen pens and erasers, secretly fetched hot water for the sister with a stomachache, and delivered notes for 2 elder brothers and sisters. Life is so hard. Being a kid is tough. The class commissary in charge of general affairs tugged hard at my hair and said, "Baby Lemon, you're so nice." I pushed him away and continued walking, but accidentally bumped into the hard chair leg with a thud. The teacher who eats kids cast a heavy look over. I wriggled my body and held back my tears, not daring to cry. I don't want to be noticed by the teacher who eats kids. But it seems Lemon is about to be eaten. Dad Jackson was called to the teacher who eats kids' office and didn't come back for a long time. He came back with a gloomy face and stared at me unhappily. "Lemon, I told you not to come out of the small house. Why are you so disobedient?" I called out Dad aggrievedly. "My leg hurts so much. It's bleeding." Dad Jackson was in a really bad mood and didn't notice. Instead, he was fierce. "Don't call me. You're so naughty. I don't want you anymore." I closed my mouth and big teardrops rolled down from my eyes. Why do I try so hard, but Dad Jackson still doesn't like me? Dad Jackson was stunned when he saw me crying. Suddenly, he came to his senses and was so flustered that he didn't know what to do. At this time, Andrew, who was on leave, called for a video call. Jackson, I found a kindergarten for Lemon. Let her see if she likes it and is willing to go. I cried even louder, sobbing. I know that a kindergarten is a place where kids are locked up. When parents don't want to take care of their kids, they'll send them there. Mom and Dad don't want me anymore. Little Lemon got angry. She threw away the heavy invitation letter, kicked over the small book nook, and shouted at Jackson, I'm willing to go to kindergarten. I don't want you to like me anymore. I rummaged through my little den and stuffed all my things into my school bag in one go. The comic book was too big to fit. Wiping my tears and clenching my small fists, I folded it in half and forced it in. Then I stepped out of the classroom menacingly. The class monitor's sister quickly hugged me and patted my back to calm me down, afraid that I would faint from crying. Sister Sophia sneered. Not afraid of the school bully's authority anymore, she hugged me indignantly and said, Don't want Lemon? That's just fine. I'll take her. Baby Lemon, let's not want this fierce and heartless dad. After Jackson read the invitation letter, his usually arrogant, cold, and indifferent face showed a look of panic and nervousness that came from being cherished for the first time. The class bell rang. Suddenly, Jackson covered my eyes, hugged me into his arms, and slipped out of the classroom. When I opened my eyes again, we were at the snack street outside the school. I struggled to push Jackson away and kept a distance of 1 meter from him. I turned my face away and didn't look at him. Dad Jackson clenched his fist, bent down his tall body, and asked carefully, Lemon, do you want to eat burgers and ice cream? I swallowed my saliva but still only showed him an angry back of my head. Jackson tried to hold my hand, but I dodged him in every way. Right now, I'm harder to catch than a pig during the spring festival. After a while, Jackson bought a lot of delicious food. Dad Jackson was so generous for the first time. My eyes sparkled with greed and my mouth watered. Jackson squatted beside me and explained in a hoarse voice. Lemon, I'm sorry today. Dad shouldn't have lost his temper with you. Lemon, Dad's family is poor. Mom died early. Dad is a gambler. His life is a mess. No one liked or accepted me when I was a child. I know everyone is afraid of me on the surface, but they still dislike me. No one really likes me. I'm used to it. You're different from me. You're well, behaved, cute, and smart. Everyone likes you. I don't want to get close to you. You can stay away from prejudice and pain only by staying away from me. Lemon didn't understand looking at Dad Jackson's painful expression. Lemon retorted subconsciously, but getting close to you is getting close to happiness. You're my dad. Kids without mom and dad are so pitiful. I kicked small stones under my feet, feeling gloomy. There was all-suppressing pain in Jackson's eyes and eyebrows, but I'm a bad person. I asked puzzledly, then why don't you become a better person? It's very difficult. It's not difficult. It was Andrew who came late who said this. I heaved a sigh of relief and suddenly hugged Andrew's long legs, complaining aggrievedly. Dad Jackson was fierce to me and said he didn't want me. Dad Andrew bent down and pinched my face. His voice was soft and his tone was gentle and doting. Good boy, he won't be willing to part with you. Andrew turned to stare at Jackson with red eyes. His eyes were firm. The environment can only determine a person's past, but not their future. There's still 1 year left in senior high school. Want to give it a try? We can't let Lemon grow up and find out that his father is a coward. As the sun sets in the west, the remaining rosy clouds dye half of the sky. Jackson gritted his teeth, exuding an unyielding spirit all over his body. Who's afraid? I'm still young and never give in. I stood at the entrance of the kindergarten, clutching the iron fence tightly, and asked one last time reluctantly. Do I really have to go to kindergarten? I heard that some kids get beaten by teachers in there. The teachers here keep referring to kids. They'll bully me. I opened my mouth wide and made a face to scare the two dads. Andrew remained unmoved indifferently. Jackson was startled and frowned as he asked Andrew, have you checked this kindergarten? Is it okay? Andrew gave him a faint look and said helplessly, I've checked. There have never been any problems in this kindergarten. So Jackson bent down and said to me, don't worry. No one will eat you. I'll come to pick you up after school. I suddenly became a bit cautious. My eyes rolled around and I said, then don't quarrel, okay? The two of them have been arguing for several days about who will come to pick me up after school. It gives the kid a headache. Dad Andrew said that according to the agreement that he takes care of me 6 days a week, he should pick me up and drop me off 6 days a week. Dad Jackson was not willing. This unequal treaty should be canceled. You've taken care of Lemon for so long. You've had enough of the benefits. From now on, it'll be 6 days for me and 1 day for you. Jackson gave a cold laugh, his voice tinged with chill. I'll take 4 parts and you take 3. This is my bottom line. You said you wouldn't regret it back then. Jackson was at a loss for words. I scratched my hair. Being caught in the middle to mediate, Lemon is suffering. Lemon would rather go to kindergarten. The teacher was waiting at the door to take me in. Jackson and Shinchingen exhorted each other word by word. In the end, their eyes were both filled with a layer of moisture without prior agreement. The teacher's expression became even more strange. Finally, she couldn't help but say, "To parents, our school also has a psychological healing room for parents with separation anxiety. How about you two go and have a look?" Jackson and Andrew fell silent. At the last moment before parting, I threw myself into Daddy Jackson's arms. Jackson squatted down to look at me eye to eye. I leaned close to his ear. "Daddy, you have to study hard with Daddy Andrew. Get a full score for Lemon to see. Also, you're not allowed to fight anymore. People who fight will be put in jail and Lemon won't be able to see you." Aunt's system said that Daddy Jackson would go to jail for fighting in the future and would become a bad guy after he got out. But my daddy isn't a bad guy. He's a hero who can fight against fate. Jackson was stunned for a moment. His eyes were red. He pressed his forehead against mine and nodded vigorously. After the two of them left, I followed the teacher into the kindergarten, humming a song I made up. "Mommy and Daddy go to school and I'm going to school too." There are many little friends in the kindergarten and they all listen to the teacher who eats kids. I knocked and observed for a while. I found that the teacher had a very small mouth and I had been fed into a ball by the older kids in the class. My hands got fat and my feet got fat too. The teacher would have a bloated stomach if she ate me. I started to play at ease. But after playing for a while, I looked at the blue sky outside the fence and began to miss my mom and dad. There was my name sewn on my school uniform by Jackson's dad. I whispered to the crooked letters, "Mom and Dad, Lemon misses you." Finally, the class was over. As soon as I got out of the school gate, I saw my mom and dad in their blue and white school uniforms. I shot out like a cannonball and was caught by Andrew's dad. Being caught by the two of them every day, then going to play claw machines was the happiest moment for me. But recently, the two of them have been getting busier and busier, probably because they are going to take the college entrance examination. I propped my chin up with a sad face, sitting between the two adults doing their homework, watching My Lucky Stars and sighing. The college entrance examination kids are so amazing, even more amazing than the kids in My Lucky Stars. When the college entrance examination kids come, all the older kids in the class are scared. "Will he hit me when he beats you?" Suddenly, I also got scared. Andrew's dad looked up from the sea of questions and laughed. "No, Dad will protect you and won't let it hit you." I grinned and laughed carelessly. Suddenly, I stopped smiling and said seriously to Andrew, "Dad, don't be late for the college entrance examination, okay? You'll be knocked down by the college entrance examination kids." The system aunt said so. Dad Andrew will miss the college entrance examination and ruin his whole life. After finishing my studies, I dragged Mom and Dad to the clock shop and pointed at an alarm clock. "I want this extremely noisy thing." Jackson laughed and comforted me. "Your dad Andrew has a strong sense of time and will never be late. Don't worry." But Aunt's system clearly said that Dad Andrew would be late. What's going on? I secretly called Aunt's system and she popped up, "Baby Lemon, maybe it's not that he is late himself, but someone is making him late." I immediately looked serious. Aunt's system suggested to me, "Baby Lemon, why don't you go to Dad Andrew's house and have a look? Maybe it's his family members." The two dads are discussing who I'll stay with during the winter vacation. I raised my chubby little hand and said, "I want to go home with Dad Andrew." Dad Jackson's expression instantly dimmed and he forced a smile. "Well, it's better. Your Dad Andrew's home is more comfortable." I puffed up my cheeks and clenched my fists. I'm going to find out who wants to make Dad Andrew late for the college entrance examination and ruin his life. After the winter vacation started, I went home with Dad Andrew. Just as we entered the door, an old aunt came out. Her eyes fell on my face, showing surprise. Dad Andrew showed no expression and said indifferently, "Aunt, this is my daughter." I nodded and said, "Hello, Aunt. I'm Lemon." Dad Andrew told me that this is his stepmother who treats him badly. Amelia's pupils widened in shock and she called Grandpa, who was on a business trip. Grandpa walked in with his youngest son, looking dazed. I beamed and said, "Hello, Grandpa. I'm a little Lemon. I'm 5 years old this year." Grandpa was dazzled by my bright smile. His expression softened a lot and he showed a smile. I grinned even more happily and took out a piece of candy to hand to Grandpa. Grandpa was flattered. A hint of joy showed in his eyes. He cleared his throat and said, "Ching-en, tell me what's going on." Andrew was very cold and even a bit repulsed and disgusted as he said, "You don't need to explain your remarriage to me and I don't need to explain anything to you." I quietly glanced at Andrew's father. Aunt System once said that Andrew's father hated his father's remarriage, especially when he married the nanny who took care of his mother. Grandpa's expression immediately fell. There was a raging anger in his eyes. I've said this is your mother's last wish. Moreover, Emilia has been wholeheartedly good to you all these years. What are you dissatisfied with? Emilia covered her face and let out a sob. She stopped the angry grandpa and said, Don't be angry. As long as I can stay by your side, if Ching-en resents me, I have nothing to say. Andrew gave a soft snort. During the spring festival days, he ignored those people as if they were air. One day, when Andrew's father left while accompanying me to watch cartoons, Aunt System suddenly approached me. Baby Lemon, do you know who wants to harm Andrew? I held the tablet computer nervously and said, Is it Emilia? The system didn't answer but instead asked, Do you want to help Andrew? I nodded vigorously. Then go to the door of the third room now. There is a recording function on the tablet computer. You secretly turn it on. I walked to the third room and heard the conversation between Emilia and her son. Mom, Andrew ranks first in the grade. Dad is going to give all the family property to him. Don't worry, son. When it's his college entrance examination, I'll put sleeping pills in his food and make him miss the exam. Without the exam, you'll seem better than him in your father's eyes. Thank you, Mom. Mom, Andrew's mother was really nice to you. She left a last wish before she died, forcing Dad to marry you. Emilia sneered mockingly. Son, how stupid you are. That last wish was fake. Andrew's mother hated me to the core. It was me who made her so angry that she died. I covered my mouth and tiptoed away quietly. When I slipped into the room, Andrew frowned and asked, Lemon, where have you been? I played the recording on the tablet for Andrew. His face instantly turned extremely cold and gloomy. This recording was presented in front of Grandpa and they confronted Emilia on the spot. Emilia looked terrified and trembled all over. Grandpa sat on the sofa, giving Emilia a cold and sharp look with no trace of affection left. The last bit of color faded from Emilia's face. When the police car came rumbling to arrest someone, Andrew's father hugged me tightly into his arms, his voice trembling. Lemon, thank you. I gently patted Andrew's father on the back and conveyed Dad's gratitude to Aunt System on his behalf. Aunt System quickly waved her hand. Host, this is a reward from me to you. It only took you one semester to achieve such a high level of affection from two people. You're the fastest progressing host. Thank you for telling me that in this world, it's not just love that deserves redemption. It was Jackson's father's birthday on Chinese New Year's Day. I was so excited that my eyes sparkled, and my hands clutching the school bag were trembling. The birthday party I prepared for Jackson's dad is finally going to start. When I arrived at Jackson's dad's door with Andrew's dad, I pursed my lips. So deserted. There are no red lanterns, no red couplets, and no fireworks. It's not fun at all. But fortunately, I brought all the things. I gritted my teeth and dragged my big bag out of the car and took out a lot of red balloon toys from it. I touched my empty small cross-body bag and felt so heartache. When Jackson came back from buying dumplings on the street, I was playing with a red train. Andrew's dad was hanging couplets and lanterns. Jackson was stunned. I ran in front of Jackson, rubbed my belly, and looked up seriously and said, Dad, I'm hungry. Jackson immediately cooked a bowl of noodles, blew them cool, and fed me. I was like an emperor, and then ran contentedly to watch my red and bustling train bumping around. After running after the train and getting tired, I kicked the train away, moved the fireworks to the middle, and grabbed my ears to call Jackson and Andrew. Dad, come and set off the fireworks quickly. As soon as I finished speaking, a pretty female voice came from behind. Baby Lemon, sister is here to set off the fireworks for you. I looked over blankly and found that all the elder brothers and sisters in the class had come. I was so excited that I spun around. Then I was busy pouring water for each elder brother and sister and worked up a sweat. The class life committee elder brother held my head down, took out a big red envelope and stuffed it into my small cross-body bag. New Year's money for Lemon. I wish Lemon always be healthy and happy. Each elder brother and sister in the class smiled and said blessings. I wiped my face in a hurry and waved my hands quickly. Today is my dad's birthday, not mine, not mine. Everyone burst into laughter. Jackson's daughter has been raised well. We know. The gift for your dad is ready. The monitor's gift is the biggest. I heard it took months to prepare. I felt relieved. After finishing all the noodles, I lay on the chair, stroking my round belly and grinning foolishly. Dad Jackson accepted everyone's gifts. The domineering man was as well behaved as an exemplary student at the moment. He is very happy now. I quickly ran over, pushed through the crowd and presented my birthday gift. I caught the caterpillars for a long time and searched many trees. Dad Jackson's face stiffened for a moment, but he still carefully accepted it. He squatted down with his well-defined face facing me, and his sharp eyebrows and eyes softened. Lemon, you are my most precious gift. When the New Year's fireworks soared into the sky, Sister Sophia and a group of people were feeding me French fries. I turned my head to look for my parents everywhere. Suddenly, I found that in a nearby corner, two tall figures were snuggled together, lips locked. I widened my eyes. Brother, the class commissary in charge of life, quickly covered my eyes, his voice on the verge of collapse. Help! Can you two go farther away? My little sweetie is here. Sophia let out a cold laugh. You don't know them yet. They're so afraid that baby Lemon will leave their sight for even a second. I felt the warmth of the class life committee brother's palm and heard the congratulatory voice of the system aunt. Host Lemon, congratulations on completing the strategy task. You're about to leave this world. After leaving, this body will automatically die. Am I going to die now? I was stunned for a few seconds and looked through the gap between the palms at Jackson and Andrew walking towards me. The two were holding hands, but their gazes were gently fixed on me, glistening as if filled with light. Suddenly, I felt extremely sad. I don't want to die on this night. Even less do I want to die in front of Mom and Dad. System Aunt, can I not leave this world? The system paused for a moment, and its voice was a bit sad. Host, you can't. You're not from this world. Even if you manage to stay, you won't live for more than half a year. You'll eventually return to your original world. Host, don't you want to return to your original world? After you go back, you'll get a healthy body, and your family of 3 will be reunited. I opened my mouth and remembered the gentle smile of Mom and the broad palm of Dad in the original world. But in an instant, I remembered something else. I remembered the look on Jackson's face when he built a small book nook for me, the hands that sewed my name stitch by stitch, and the careful look when he coaxed me to be happy. I remembered the reluctant look in Andrew's eyes when he sent me back to the police station, the hardship of him almost running himself ragged to find a kindergarten for me, and the hand that tightly held mine when he brought me into the house. I bit my lip and was almost in tears. Aunt's system, but Jackson and Andrew are also my parents. Aunt's system sighed. Lemon, you can stay for at most half a year, but there is a price for these 6 months. You will get sick just as uncomfortable as in your previous life. You were most afraid of getting sick, weren't you? Haven't you had enough of those years in the hospital in your previous life? Of course it was uncomfortable. Everyone said I was strong, but I often cried secretly by myself. Will the college entrance examination boy leave after half a year? The system nodded. So I made up my mind. Then let me get sick, but don't let Dad Jackson and Dad Andrew find out. I want to leave after the college entrance examination boy leaves. Without my protection, the college entrance examination boy will defeat Dad and the others. My long and thick eyelashes blinked and a few teardrops welled up. Lengthen the time for farewell. I don't want to leave without saying goodbye. After the short winter vacation, Mom and Dad went back to the class to teach. I held the phone in the kindergarten and pointed it at myself. This is the phone Mom and Dad bought for me. I can call them for a video call if I miss them, but I don't want to call now. I'm recording a video. Mom and Dad, I'm a lemon. By the time you see this video, I'll be dead. I turned my head and furtively glanced around. Finding that no one was paying attention to me, I felt a bit relieved. Lemon isn't dead. Lemon was taken away by the system auntie. Mom and Dad, don't be sad. The system auntie is a really powerful fairy sister. When Lemon was about to die of illness, she brought Lemon here and said that if Lemon successfully completed the mission, she could live and return to the original world. Lemon succeeded. Thank you, Lemon's mom and dad. Lemon will always love you. Just as I was speaking, an overwhelming amount of pain spread across my chest. I abruptly turned off the recording and started rolling on the ground. The teacher was so frightened that her face turned pale and she quickly came to help me up. After I recovered for a while, I grinned at the teacher and said, "Teacher, I'm fine. Don't eat me. My meat doesn't taste good." The teacher was amused by me. She carefully examined my complexion and seriously said, "Lemon, if you feel uncomfortable, you must tell the teacher." I immediately nodded obediently. Just to be safe, the teacher told Jackson and Andrew about this. Within half an hour, the two of them rushed to the school with solemn expressions and hugged me to check me up and down. I was tickled all over and couldn't stop giggling. "Dad, I'm going to die laughing." After examining me very carefully and taking me to the hospital for various tests, they found that I was indeed normal, and then they felt relieved. I quietly thanked the system auntie. In my previous life, I saw how painful and desperate Mom and Dad were in front of my hospital bed. I don't want to see Jackson and Andrew like this again. The system aunt said it was okay. Mom and Dad brought me back to the class, and instantly everyone surrounded me. Sister Sophia anxiously hugged me and said, "Baby Lemon, where do you feel uncomfortable?" The class life committee member brother also looked very ugly and quickly asked, "Did someone bully you?" I shook my head and stuck out my tongue. I faked it. I wanted Mom and Dad to pick me up. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Speaking of which, the older brothers and sisters in the class also love me very much. When I secretly slipped to the toilet, I turned on my phone to record. Sister Sophia, the class life committee member brother, the class study committee member sister. I recited a long list of names before stopping and smiling brightly. "I'm your baby, a Lemon. Lemon loves you very much. Don't be sad when Lemon leaves. Lemon will be sad." I rambled on here and there. Just like this, I recorded from the beginning of the semester to the end. By June, the phone was almost full. It was all my rambling and self-talking, and there were also many super funny clips. I would burst out laughing when I saw them. Dad Jackson and Dad Andrew wouldn't be sad when they saw them. When the phone was completely full, the college entrance examination came. The college entrance examination passed. After the exam results were announced, Jackson's dad handed me a 100-point English test paper, his eyes full of pride. "Lemon, I got 100 points. I fulfilled my promise to you." I had a look of annoyance on my face and felt like crying but had no tears. The full score of the college entrance exam English is 150 points. Jackson rubbed my face hard and gritted his teeth. "That's enough. Do you really want your dad to get a perfect score?" Andrew casually showed off his invincible perfect score, which made Jackson envious and jealous. The older students in the class all did well in the exam and everyone was smiling. I was also smiling, but gradually I couldn't smile anymore. I saw the whole class looking at me in horror. Jackson and Andrew's faces turned deathly pale in an instant. I touched my nose and mouth. My hand was covered with blood. I was sent to the intensive care unit, and 3 critical condition notices were issued. The doctor said I wouldn't live through the night. This was the day I had agreed with Aunt System. When I woke up, Jackson and Andrew were standing hopelessly in front of my bed, looking as pale as death. I reached out and tightly held their little fingers and softly called out, "Mom and Dad, don't be sad." My voice was so weak that it seemed I would stop breathing the next second. Jackson and Andrew burst into tears immediately. I tried to force a smile but found I had no strength. I could only point at the phone. Fortunately, I had recorded a huge number of videos. The system aunt is here to pick me up. I know it's time for me to go. I stared at my parents, pursed my lips and whispered, "You must live a good life. Don't become a bad person, and don't become a madman. You must live well and wait for me to find you. Wait for me to come home."